Oh, you were studying for the trip?
Yeah.
So that's what a Fletcher class destroyer looks like.
Why is it so small? It's like a warship, only smaller.
Look at this. Look how small this bridge is. And look how thin the armor is. Armor.
What about those TIE fighters? Stay on target. Stay on target. Libby liked that one. I'm in good favor with Libby.
Okay.
All right, so we are in the pilot house of the USS KIDD. We apologize for the poor audio conditions out on the bow, but that's what happens in a shipyard, so we're not going to apologize too hard. We just learn from our mistakes. Up, you can see through the portholes behind us and around us that everything is boxed up because they have been water blasting the decks above us and around us on this level. And you can't pan downward, but quite a bit of water on the deck intruding through the doorways that weren't fully dogged. You said you didn't do any blasting on New Jersey other than below the decks?
We
Below the water line?
focused our project exclusively on the 125,000 square feet below water, and we left everything else until we got back to the pier. But you guys were saying that you have to do work above the water line because you can't do that back home. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, we're right on the downtown Baton Rouge riverfront. Anything we blast into the air is going to drift among the denizens of Baton Rouge, and we can't have that. EPA regulations and all that. So no, any kind of painting on a large scale like this, or removal of paint using any kind of blasting method, strictly forbidden. We just can't do it.
And a perfect example of that, 2015, we blasted and painted our A7 sitting out front of the museum building. And we actually had the street, the city parish, close off all the parking spaces and put up signs about, overspray, do not park here. And sure enough, people ignored it, they parked, and the wind was blowing from the west and blew it right onto the street, and people got overspray on their cars, a couple of them. And, they couldn't do anything, so, and I need to talk louder.
The museum is still open.
And yes, our museum is still open if you are in the area or passing through the area. The museum is open, all the exhibits are there, Parks is there, I'm there sometimes.
In Baton Rouge.
In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in downtown Baton Rouge, and it's at a reduced commission because the star attraction is not there. So come see us. The donation links are open. We want to do more than just the bare minimum for kids, so help us do that, please. We appreciate all the help.
I'm going to personally say, as the executive director, at the museum we're hanging on by a thread because we have lost our main attraction. We're doing what we can to stay open. We're requesting assistance from the government, which we don't normally do. But we need donations now more than ever. The ship is fairly well taken care of, thanks to the agreements that we have worked with the state. But the museum is dying. Nobody wants to help the museum. Everybody wants to help the ship. So we've got great plans for the museum for when the ship comes back and then beyond. But we're not going to get there if we don't survive from it. So please, if you ever consider donating to us, now is the time.
For me as a battleship guy, who cares about these tin cans? But they have the closest thing to a completed Montana class battleship that exists. The only Navy built Montana that's out there was the model that they built that shows up in those two black and white pictures we all see. And guess where that is housed? So for all my battleship enthusiasts out there, you got to go to Baton Rouge to see it.
And if you're going to do that, come and check with me, because it's not out on display on the regular exhibits. We've got it in our administrative area.
Why do you hate battleships so much?
I don't want people to see them.
It's the largest model we have outside of the builder's model for the New Orleans.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
a great model too.
Yeah, but it's expensive to build a case that large, so that's why it's sitting there.
Yeah, and actually we didn't know until recently that was the model, because someone later on has put the number and name Louisiana on her, which is why we ended up getting her, because she represented the USS Louisiana that was meant to be built. But it's the original 1941 conceptual model that they built for the Montana class.
Yeah, it's a really cool model. I got to see it. Louisiana DB-71 is the last named and numbered battleship ever authorized. There is nothing past that except in World of Warships.
Tell me about the project. What are you doing here?
What are we doing here?
What are we doing? We're standing here in water.
Hold on. Real quick, we just got a super chat from Dr. Johan.
Dr. what?
Johan?
Johan. Hi,
20
Johan.
bucks. Thank you,
Hi,
Johan.
Is
Do you have
that
a
MD
specific
or
question?
PhD?
I don't know, it's doctor with a K, so
Okay.
not sure.
Doctor.
Johan,
Okay. And did he have a question or?
No, just give us $20.
Just
Oh,
gave
he's
us
a
$20.
PhD.
Thank
He's
you
a
for
PhD.
that answer, Jackson. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Professor Johan.
Thank you, Johan.
Professor
All right.
Destroyer. There you go. From DeVry University.
PhD.
So anyway,
PhD, there you go.
shut up, you idiots. Okay, we have a once-in-a-generation overhaul going on here. Department of Interior standards require that museum ships, steel-hulled museum ships, receive an overhaul every 10 years or so. In saltwater, if they're in freshwater like KIDD is, that's 20 years. KIDD has not had an overhaul in over 60 years, a structural overhaul. And so she's long past due. So we're actually getting, we've managed to get the money together. We've convinced the state of the importance of this attraction, which, by the way, we are the #1 attraction in Baton Rouge if you take the sports out of it. And sports always gets #1. But and we're #2 in the state behind the National World War II Museum down in New Orleans. But so we got the money to do this overhaul, and that was a one-time ask that cannot be repeated again for probably another 40 to 60 years. So we're trying to get as much done to this ship now to add to her longevity, to make sure she's with us forever as we can during this yard period.
It's very similar to the project that we had to do in New Jersey. We were at the 33-year mark, so we knew we were long overdue for the project. Our ship built in 1943, just like you guys. Our thinnest shell plating, 5/8 of an inch thick as built, just like a lot of the shell plating on KIDD. So
That's our thickest shell plate. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, no, we are looking at we were looking at a ship with the same age, same thickness in some places, the same once in a generation concerns, and I don't think we could have done it without our state's funding either. So it's great that you guys were able to get it from Louisiana.
It's, I don't know if people appreciate this enough, but museum ships, as they are not a sustainable business model. We do our best to be self-sustaining through ticket sales, store sales, and donations. But it's
Donate at USSKIDD.org.
.com.
Yes, USSKIDD.com. There is a donate button.
2 Ds.
2 Ds. Yes. But we need occasional government help to keep us going, and we are the stewards of this nation's history, maritime history in this case. Us and museums like us, not just museum ships. And I'm sure I'm making the same complaint that a lot of museums of all types across the country do, but museum ships especially, because our artifact, our primary artifact, is out in the elements all the time. It's in, a lot of times, its operating environment, and that operating environment is very hostile. These ships were built to last a few years to win a war. They were not meant to endure for 80 plus years. And so us trying to hang on to this is a Herculean effort, which can only be realized through any number of income streams, the various programs that we run, plus the external stuff that we continually ask to bring in. Donate to USSKIDD.com, that kind of thing.
And preserving ships like this is vitally important. The last global war is what these ships participated in. The last nuclear war is what these ships participated in.
And we're not participating in the next global war, okay?
Hopefully
All
not.
of you people on Facebook, we're not retrofitting her for World War III.
But now, 80 years after these ships were built, we're at a point where their crews, the living memories of this war, is disappearing. So macro artifacts like KIDD, like New Jersey, like the handful of other ones preserved around the world, are the only things that are educating the public about this war that we don't want to do that again.
Okay, well, let me.
And you just touched on something with the crews disappearing. Franklin Clay and some guys from Missouri were here last Thursday. And the reason they were in Louisiana is because they flew into Mississippi, went across the river, up into the very northern part of the state at Lake Providence, and they interviewed one of their last surviving World War II crew members while they could. And then since they were here, they're like, hey, let's fly out of New Orleans back to Hawaii and we'll visit Kidd and the dry dock. But they even have, as late in the war as Missouri came, they have very few World War II crew members around.
Right. So let me put my internet hat on for a minute and say, Ryan, why are you spending all this effort and money that could go to more worthy programs on retaining a battleship when we could just build this with AI and have a virtual ship that people can see? We retain our history that way, won't we?
I don't think AI is there yet. I've seen what AI spits out as a battleship. And nothing compares to being on the real thing. Like, if you want to go to Gettysburg, you can go to the Gettysburg battlefield and see that. If you want to go to Leyte Gulf, water. If you can even get out there, it's just blank water.
Right.
But these ships are the living memory of that, and you can walk in their footsteps. And unlike a traditional museum, where your artifacts are behind glass, you can't touch, you can't interact with it, you get the most intimate possible museum experience when you go on a museum ship, because you don't just get to touch the artifact, you are literally inside of the artifact. You get to breathe its air, touch it, and smell it, taste it.
Don't taste it. Don't taste it.
You could taste it if you wanted to, but you shouldn't.
Don't taste it. I'd like to take a step backward for a moment on what we were touching on about funding. Those of you who've seen me on Museum Ship Mafia, you've seen me on the Kids channel and everything live streaming talking about it, I pound this fact. And people in the general public are amazed at this fact. We're not just talking about museum ships, but museums of any kind. I got to be on our state's museum board for a while. And one of the things I learned from American Alliance of Museums is that if you take every museum of every type in the nation, combine their annual attendance, we blow away the combined attendance of hockey, professional baseball, professional basketball, and professional football, and then amusement parks on top of that, and that's including Disney. We beat the House of Mouse every year, right? And I will tell you right now, you go to a New Orleans Saints game right down the road in the Superdome, and part of that is government funding. And most of these museums don't get government funding of any type, federal, state, or local. The ones that do, however, AMA found out that for every dollar of government money that goes into a museum, the museum puts back $5 into the local community. So museums are used by Bloomberg, I think it's called. Bloomberg does these polls of the happiest or the most well-being cities in the nation. Museums are on that category. If you have vibrant museums in your community is doing well. So supporting your local museums, or support if you're living out of the country and you want to support the museum, you're supporting not just the museum, you're supporting the community around the museum. So keep that in mind when you think about donations.
Not only that, but what's one of the most primary aspects of the museum?
Education. We are like the extension of the classroom. The teachers bring the kids to us to demonstrate what they're talking about in the classroom. And it's fun. And when a kid has fun, not necessarily this kid gets into trouble when she has fun, but kids in the classroom, when they have fun, they remember it. I've literally been driving in a golf cart down the street during an event, and some girl, 20-something years old, shouts out to me, 376 feet long, 39 feet in beam, 2,050 tons. And I'm like, overnight or day tour? Day tour, field trip. Well, I'm glad you had fun. She learned something. I have to struggle to remember those stats sometimes, but she remembered it.
But it's not just our ship stats. I was crew aboard Midway when she was active, and Midway and I retired together. Okay, they're pointing at something. Okay.
Keep rolling.
Okay.
Stay on target.
Okay. So, I was originally on Midway's crew before retirement, and Midway and I both retired about the same time. I retired in San Diego. Midway was brought to San Diego as a museum ship, and I got to watch her in her first years as she struggled to find her way as a museum ship. And she faced a lot of headwinds in those early years. I don't think people who've been Midway today can appreciate how rough a time they had in the beginning. But they emphasize this education aspect, and it was their way of binding with the community, and not just on describing the Midway. The one example that will stick with me the most is one of the guys in the Midway, the docents, was telling me that for their education program, they reached out to their local educators and said, what do you want us to teach? Not, we've got a program and we're going to post, we're going to teach to your kids. What do you want to teach? And they say, well, in San Diego, we don't have that many changes in the weather. It's always 72 and nice here all the time. So our kids don't really understand how weather works. Can you teach weather? Well, of course. Midway has a full-on meteorology department, and so they gave a course on weather that became the most requested course for the Midway education program. And really had nothing to do with the ship, but they were uniquely qualified to teach that subject. So it's not just teaching the kids about war or the specifics of our specific artifact or anything. This is a tool that grabs the student's attention, keeps their attention, so that they can learn whatever subjects their teachers want them to learn.
Which is the whole point behind our Kid Bits video series. You look for that playlist on our channel.
And your channel is?
And our channel is, Molly, what's our channel? At USS KIDD Veterans Museum?
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Molly is my brain trust for video stuff. By the way, Libby, I want you to make a note of what was just said there. He and Midway retired at the same time. Midway is now considered a naval artifact, so by extension.
Not everything that's old is an artifact. Or valuable.
But once it reaches a certain age, like Parks.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, but I knew Libby first.
Thank you. Thank you. I never stood a chance with her anyway, so
Yeah.
there you go. Anyway,
So, you guys want to go and look around the ship and do some more videos? You guys
well, I tell you what, before you do that,
Yeah.
give them a brief overview of everything that we're doing through the ship during the charter.
Everything that we're doing to the ship, first and foremost on our list is take care of the hull. Any through penetrations, anything that's thin enough that in the near future, 10 years or so, might be a penetration, we're taking care of it. Blasting and painting from stem to stern and keel to truck, and getting it down to bare metal before repainting. We are, it's so much. We're repairing we've repaired wasted metal in the 5-inch gun decking where leaks have happened from the gun captain hatches and from the entry hatches. We have repaired wasted metal in what was the old crew berthing compartments. It's now our sewing room. We have repaired all that. If you've been on KIDD in the past 5-6 years, all that scabrous, cancerous decking on the fantail is gone. It's nice, smooth deck again. There was galvanized metal back there. That the galvanization was damaged at some point in time, and so she started rotting.
And during that process, we learned about bimetallic corrosion, didn't we?
Oh, we knew about bimetallic corrosion.
Well, I mean, we got it slapped in our face.
Yeah, this was heavy duty bimetallic.
We tried to patch some of our worst spots back there on that galvanized deck with mild steel, and it created a bigger problem than what we were originally dealing with. So that's something that crews have to understand when they are restoring a ship or restoring any kind of metallic structure, is that if you put two different types of metals together, they don't play well together at all. You need to isolate them. We had accelerated corrosion in those areas, and literally plates that we put down earlier this year are already corroding through. So just a little lesson learned on that.
Ships are residents and curators have to know chemistry, and I flunked chemistry almost in high school, so that may explain it.
How about the rudder?
The rudder, we cut 3 to 4 feet off of the rudder to get out of the cradle and get down here. If we raise enough money, there's the donation button again. If we raise enough money, we want to backfit that rudder because she got an expanded rudder during the Cold War. New Jersey during World War II could actually outturn Fletcher class destroyers like Kidd because of the undersized rudder that she had. So when Korea came along, every Fletcher that was reactivated got an expanded rudder, widened and deepened. So we want to backfit that, since when you come to Baton Rouge in the winter and you see the ship out of water, you will see a World War II rudder. We want to backfit that, cut off the excess.
I think we should make a whole video about that when we're finished here.
There you go.
I think that's a cool topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the rudder, we are putting in a new sewage tank because the old sewage tank was put in wrong. Sorry, whoever built it, but you took a shortcut, dude. We lived with the outcome. So we got rid of the old one. We put a new one in. It's smaller. It's more modern. It actually chews stuff up before it sends it out, so it's going to be much more efficient. The nice thing about it is we're going to be able to walk around it and maintain it a lot easier. We repaired that big nasty rust bloom that you saw on Facebook last year in May of 2023. We repaired that. We got new metal where the nameplate was on the transom.
New letters.
New letters, courtesy of the Slater and Hudson Valley Community College and Ed Zukowski. And speaking of Ed Zukowski, you always hear me mention his name in the videos. Ed is the perfect example of somebody that can volunteer for you, but not actually be physically on the site. They can do research for you off-site. So, or they can send out letters for, trying to do fundraising and such. So
That man has dug up so many blueprints.
Oh, yeah.
He even found Iowa class blueprints, even though he's more interested in destroyers.
yeah, he's phenomenal, and he touts that all the time, and people kind of blow him off. But it's true. He's a living example of that. He helps us all the time. He's actually working up the material out of his Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse basement of taking us from the boiler to the turbine to the shaft and the gearbox and all the way back to the propeller. We're going to have a video taking you all the way to the propulsion of the ship going through that. So that's coming in the next couple of months. In addition to all that, the big one that's close to my heart that we have been doing is a retrofitting of our Cold War fire control area, little compartment. They stuck extra fire control equipment in it. We have ripped that room apart, pulled all that Cold War stuff out. We have torn out the dumbwaiter that was in the mess deck ladder well, and we have realigned those ladders and changed everything up on the main deck. It's actually 3 levels going from main deck down to the second platform of restructuring this space to put the stewards berthing back into place. Stewards in World War II were entirely black, African American, wherever their point of origin came from, and they lived segregated from the rest of the crew. And so we are putting that back. We've got the list of crew members that served on KIDD from 43 to 46, and we're going to work with National Archives. We're going to try to pull their records, hopefully contact their families, get their stories, and tell that part of the KIDD story, because it's all part of the story for the crew.
And in another collaboration, we're partnering with our Baton Rouge African American Museum to develop the narrative. So those who have the most investment in this subject will develop the narrative.
They're telling what's going on in the Baton Rouge side, and when they reopen in December, they're actually going to beat us to the punch. Their side of the exhibit is going to be open, talking about the civilian side. When we get back to Baton Rouge, we'll open the space. We'll be talking about the military side, and then if you come to us, you can walk 2 blocks up the street, see what it was like at home, and then vice versa, come down to see the military side. So that idea was something that Tim Rizzuto put in my head back in the 90s when he left for Slater. He said, if you ever get a chance to go to the shipyard, you got to do this. And so we've held on to it.
We made it a high priority.
Yeah, so it's happening.
Let's see what else.
There's a lot of stuff.
Foundations for the 40s.
Yeah,
That's
Texas.
another partnership you guys are doing.
Yeah, Texas, everybody was involved for the search, because when they got rid of the 40s in the late 50s, early 60s, They also got rid of the foundations that they were mounted to, so that they didn't weld it directly to the deck. They could actually unbolt it and move it quickly. So they cut all those off, and they got rid of the plans. They jettisoned the plans because they didn't need them anymore. So we talked to Cass, we talked to Sullivan's, we talked to Salem, we talked to Bama, we talked to Texas. Texas got us the blueprints for the quad 40s. The twins are a little bit smaller; those were a little more effort. And it ended up that Dwayne Gallagher over at Hazard in Omaha had the prints for the twin 40s because Hazard has twin 40s. And so we were able to get our prints. It really is #one fleet. We all work together. We all talk to each other. You know how many times I get asked, do you know Ryan Szymanski? And I'm like, I am Ryan Szymanski.
But the restorations of the guns themselves are being conducted by the Texas crew.
Yes.
We went out on a trip to Galveston to look at the Texas and dry dock, and Travis out there took us up to his warehouse, which is off site, and showed us his little operation there. And he had a whole line of
5-inch guns.
Well, he had 40 millimeters too.
Yeah, they were already out of the yard.
They were
He was
duals.
working the 5s. when we
Duals.
were
I'm trying to think if they had any quads. I think they were all duals.
there. So
But anyway, and I took pictures. Here's a line of duals that are not restored, and here they are restored. I go, well, these guys know how to do it. So we arranged with Texas to ship our 40s out to their warehouse where they got tools, they got talent.
They made their mistakes.
And so they're working on our 40s. They're doing the restoration. And again, #one fleet.
Economy of effort and added money that they didn't expect.
And
So-
for everybody else out of the fleet, they've got a workhouse, so send all your work to Texas. Keep them in operation forever. They'll never get their ship back in the water. Busy restoring
always
everybody
be working.
else's stuff. But no, it's the Historic Naval Ships Association is a wonderful organization that allows all of us to talk with each other and share ideas and share resources, and we ping off each other. Wait a minute, I shouldn't be talking about that. The executive director of Henson should be talking about that.
Yeah, no, we don't really like each other. We don't talk to
And we actually were working with the Louisiana Association of Museums, one of our fellow members, to work on our whaleboats, but unfortunately that fell through, and so our whaleboats are under restoration right behind Smalley and Libby and the camera, maybe about a mile distant. We're looking at the yard where the whaleboats are at. So those will be restored as well. All of our directors, torpedo directors, 40 millimeter directors are back home in Baton Rouge. Nathan Bergeron in the Kid Cave. Is that the right term, Molly?
Yep,
Kid
Kid
Cave. Kid Cave. Nathan is there and restoring those to movement. 2 of them were already moving and elevating and everything, but he's going to clean them up a little bit better and get them painted up in the new camouflage. And,
so let me get this straight. You shine the ship's searchlight at a cloud. It's got the kid's skull and crossbones on it, and then
Nathan magically appears.
comes out of the kid's cave and restores parts of the ship.
Right.
I am convinced that Nate survived the Philadelphia experiment. That man has the ability to manifest himself within lock steel spaces aboard the ship. Anyway, Nate is a mystery.
Nate is an enigma. Nate is an artist.
Yes.
I don't know anybody, and Rizzuto has backed me up on this. Don't know anybody in the historic fleet that has contributed more in fabrication and restoration to a single vessel than Nate has with this vessel, with Kidd. If you watch our World of Warships behind the scenes video, I point out all the different things on Kidd that the Navy had cut off, and Nate fabricated and brought back just by pictures and plans. He is really, truly an artist.
Yeah, Kidd is the only destroyer surviving in her World War II configuration. And the reason for that is, all these ships were modernized after the war if they stayed in service. But the crew that took over in the 80s, led by Tim Rizzuto, Nate was part of that crew, they put a full-on effort to restore Kidd back to her 1945 configuration. That's not something that can be done today. Back in the 80s, that was kind of the golden age for museum ship restoration. because other ships, other decommissioned ships, the Navy opened the doors and let us take what we needed off of other ships. We got our torpedo tubes from Caperton.
Caperton, the torpedo tubes, the torpedo directors, the boat crane, boom, a lot of stuff. The biggest thing that we drew from in a lot of ships, I think maybe even Jersey stuff from her, USS Gage. I don't think there was anything left of that ship by the time the historic fleet got done with her. I think it was just the hull, because there's so much on Gage. It's on Kidd, it's on Kennedy, it's on Slater, it's on Jersey. I don't even know all the ships that she's on.
So those donor ships no longer exist in the mothball fleet, at least not for the World War II period. If you go to the Philadelphia Navy shipyard today, thank you, Liddy, you're going to see mothballed ships, but they're much later vintage. They're Hazard class Oliver Hazard Perry class frigates. There was a couple LCSs there.
Yeah, less than a decade old. There's the Ticonderoga class cruisers that are being decommissioned now are coming in.
Right. So, I mean, not too much in the World War II. So, if you were going to restore a ship to World War II configuration, the 80s were the time, and the relatively small crew that worked on the Kidd did magical things.
And it was lightning in a bottle. It was the right guy, Rizzuto, knowing where this stuff was in the different fleets, and convincing them that it was possible to do it. The right board that had the commitment to do it and stick to it.
Not just send people out and get
events,
moving trucks.
Raise money, connect people with shipping companies and everything, and the right fabricator and Nate, and just the right people at the right time. I don't know that it could happen again today if something were to happen again. I don't know that we could recreate it. So that's why we're making sure that this yard visit, we do it right so that the people coming behind us don't have to deal with some of this stuff.
I mean, for instance, my dream as executive director of this museum would be to take this ship back to the day that the Kamikaze hit in April 1945. What you see now is what Kidd looked like when she came out of the yards, having been repaired from that hit. I'd like to take her back to before that hit, but I need another set of torpedo tubes, and I know it's set out in California, but I don't know if they're willing to give it up, and even if they do, I don't have the money to haul it out here. I need single 20 millimeters, which you can't find anymore. Everybody's looking for 20 millimeters nowadays. Everybody.
Texas get stripped off the ships after the war.
So,
crane.
I mean, most of our 20 millimeters came from Netherlands. So we didn't even get it off American ship. But so we even making those small adjustments to take her back just a few more months in the war, I don't know that we can ever do it again. We may have to stop here in August, September of 1945.
This may be the sweet spot.
Yes.
Where do you learn more and how do you support this project?
Go to USSKIDD.com.
No. Say it as a. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my documentary thing. You repeat the question in your answer.
Where do we learn more about this, and how do we donate? You learn more at www.usskidd.com or go to our YouTube channel at USS KIDD Veterans Museum.
It's actually at USS KIDD 661.
My apologies. At USS KIDD 661. The DD is hidden in the KIDD. So, and you can donate at www.usskidd.com. By watching videos, you make money for us because we are monetized. But throw some dead presidents our way as well.
And if you're old school and don't have a computer, our phone number is 225-342-1942. You can call, talk to our admin, and she'll take care of you.
All right. I think I covered most of the projects.
You guys ready to go film some other videos?
Let's film some videos. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate y'all.